guys, my name is Arin, and this is Arin's Voice. Today I'm going to be interviewing Representative Harris of the Democratic Party. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy. Hi guys, today we're here with Representative Harris to talk about issues related to students. So let's get started. Hello, Representative Harris. Thank you for giving us some of your time today.
Absolutely.
Okay, do you want to get started with the first question?
Yes.
Okay, the first question I want to ask you about is one that I think is extremely important to students all across America. Gun violence.
Yes.
The news of school shootings sends a wave of fear throughout students and parents. So, what is the Florida House of Representatives doing about this issue?
So there have been a few bills actually filed by representatives like Representative Christine Hunchowski and Representative Dan Daly, both who are from Parkland. And we know that a few years back there was unfortunately a school shooting in Parkland that kind of addressed this, that talk about closing loopholes in sales and making it harder for people to get a hold of a gun if they shouldn't have one. It's really up to our leadership in the House to decide if they will put that on a committee to be heard. But bills that address these issues are being filed, and I'm always happy to co-sponsor them, and I've co-sponsored both of those bills.
I understand. Now, the next issue I want to ask you about is the teacher shortage.
Yeah.
According to the Florida Education Association, there are currently 10,000 public vacancies.
Right.
So, what do we do about this?
Yeah, it's a problem. There's been laws that have been passed and recently that have made it more difficult for teachers. They're afraid that if they talk about certain subjects or they say certain things, they could get charged with a felony. It would be really wonderful if we could kind of roll those back, but also increasing teacher pay. And there was actually a bill filed that is an education bill that part of that bill would increase teacher pay. And like the other bill, I was happy to put my name on that as a co-sponsor to show support that I believe that we should pay our teachers, especially teachers who are, have seniority, who have been there for a while, what they're worth, so that they can have a living wage and they can not just survive, but they can thrive.
I understand. Now, the third thing I want to ask you about is House Bill 3, which was passed in 2024, and it stated that students had to be 14 years of age to use social media apps like Instagram and TikTok. I know of kids in my own school who are using it. So do you support this bill? And if you do, how are you planning on enforcing it?
Well, I think that they're allowed to use it if they have their parents' permission. And so some of those kids might have their parents' permission, but it is really difficult to enforce it. And I really think that a lot of that should be up to the apps themselves to try to do a little bit more to make sure that young kids aren't being exposed to content that can be harmful, including content that really focuses on the way people look and can really make people feel bad about themselves if they don't look a certain way.
Yeah, I understand. Now, the next thing I want to ask you about is literacy rates.
Yeah.
In the United States, literacy rates have been free falling, but especially in Florida. A new study by the National Assessment of Educational Progress revealed that Florida used to place 21st in reading test scores, but now has dropped significantly to 43rd.
Right.
What do we do about this?
Right. I just read that study myself, and it's concerning. As someone who loves to read, I want to make sure that our Florida students are reading. It's so essential to being able to learn. Again, I think that we need to stop focusing on things like banning books and encourage reading in our schools and encourage kids to understand the content that they're reading. So maybe not focus so much on tests, but more on discussions and comprehension, because reading is more than just understanding the words. It's understanding the themes and the narratives that authors are trying to relay in their stories. So that would be something I would really love to see, is less book bans and more books, and kids allowed to explore what they're reading and talk about it more.
Yeah, I understand. Now, what advice would you give to students interested in public service?
I think getting involved in, of course, there's like SGA, student government. I think that's something that's always really good for them to get involved with. Also, especially as you get older, looking into how to intern with legislative offices. A lot of legislative offices from state, like state house, county commissioners, city commissioners, all the way up to congressional offices, love to have interns in their office, and you could really get a behind the scenes view of what's going on. But I think always just advocating for the things that you're passionate about that's really the biggest way. You okay?
Yeah.
That's really the best way to get involved. Like what you're doing right now. You're passionate about something, you're advocating for something, you're being really active and engaging, and that's the best thing I think someone can do.
If you had never pursued a life in politics, what different career would you have tried?
Well, I was much older when I got elected. I was 50 years old when I got elected. So most of my life I was a mom and I was a writer. And I think if I hadn't run for election, I'd probably be doing the same thing.
Okay. Thank you for your time, Representative Harris. That is the end of the interview. Thank you guys for watching, and that is the end. Bye.
Also, if you like the interview, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Also, make sure to comment down below. Thank you.